Warning, this episode contains material of mature nature and is not for the faint of heart. If you or someone you know is thinking of committing suicide, please seek help immediately. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, my name's MrSpirit, and today we're going to talk about my past. About an event that happened 10 years ago. An event that changed a lot of people's lives, not just my own. 10 years ago, I tried to commit suicide. I tried to hang myself in my parents' basement a few months before high school started. I felt very depressed, and I did not seek help. I did not want anyone's help, and I thought I could do everything on my own. It's a dark time that I kept hidden for a while from a lot of people, including some of my best friends. It's something that I'm not proud of, but it's something that's there. I cannot change it, and it has happened. If you or someone you know is thinking of suicide, do help. Talk to an adult, talk to a professional, talk to a school counselor, talk to someone. Let them know that either you or someone you know is contemplating suicide. It is something that is very devastating and can be prevented with talking. So let's begin at the start of my story. So 10 years ago, back when I was 15, in 2005, I got really depressed. I had a lot of friends move. I was failing in school. Everything was just going wrong for me, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it was really tough. I contemplated it before, and I thought, no, I'm brave enough for this. I can deal with it. I can push through it. I'm strong. I can do this. But I wasn't. I wasn't strong enough. I had struggled, and it eventually just got to me. Now, what I had planned was to hang myself. I was going to take an extension cord and hang it off of one of the support beams in the basement to hang myself with. What my full plan was when my parents were out, my brother was gone for a while. It was summer season. He went camping with my grandfather, and I stayed behind. But when my parents went out that night, I had started to go through with my plan, and in the end, I successfully went through with it. I had the rope around the beam, and I stepped on this chair, put it around my neck in a proper noose, and kicked the chair. Down I went, and the last thing I remembered from that was black. Just absolute black. The next thing that I remember was I woke up in a hospital. I was panicking, my meters were going crazy, and hospital staff were rushing in to calm me down. I was in intensive care because of what I had done. I was lucky to be alive, and I was lucky to be found still alive. So it was a miracle that the extension cord had reached its limits after being so old and snapped. I was found passed out and was sent to the hospital. While I was in the hospital room, they kept me under close surveillance. They didn't know what I may attempt. They didn't know what I would do. So they let me just be. They didn't want to do anything too extreme, but at the same time, they didn't want me to grab anything at my reach to try and finish what I had started. I was brought food on a regular schedule, and a nurse was always within care or some orderly. After a few weeks had passed, and I was deemed fit to go back out walking and movement and all that, they had shipped me to Unit 9. Now, for those who don't know, Unit 9 is a name for a sanitarium. It's not the type of sanitarium where they do lobotomies and make sure you're not cuckoo, cuckoo, but the type where they make sure you're cared for and helping getting over drug addiction, depression, and whatnot. It's very secure, and they make sure people don't hurt themselves while trying stuff. So I was shipped to Unit 9, and what they do is they remove all your clothing. What you're left with, what they give you, is a pair of gym shorts with no belt, no string, nothing, and a t-shirt. And that's it. That's your only two articles of clothing other than your underwear. And with those clothing, they're built so they tear away, so you can't try and strangle yourself with them. So it makes sense why they would give them to every patient, just in case. And then they give you a room. In your room, it's got a window. It's not barred, but it's sealed. It can't open, but you can see out of it. And you get a cot with no bed sheets. Once again, they want to make sure you don't hang yourself. And in that room, you sit and you wait until it's either food time, where you go and get your food and sit down, visitation hours, where people can come and visit you and you sit in a room that's monitored, so no drugs can be snuck in and whatnot. And then they have counseling as well. It's always there. For me, however, I chose just to sit in my room and just sit there and be quiet. I didn't talk with anyone. I didn't talk to anyone. The doctors would take me to my counseling. They'd set me in a wheelchair and wheel me down there. I became a lifeless shell of what I am today. I had no will whatsoever to do anything. Eating eventually stopped, and doctors had recommended to put me on medication. But that proved to be pretty difficult for them. Since I wasn't eating, they couldn't give me medication through the food. And since I didn't want to take medication directly, they couldn't just hand me pills either. They had to try and get sneaky, but every time they failed, because what do you do against a guy who refuses to do anything? But if you try and force him like an animal, you'll be caught and be fighting an animal. The orderlies would try and hold me down, and I'd bite them and claw at them. I fought like an animal. And this really put them off from wanting to help me, because this guy is really unstable and he refuses the help. He's gonna just go out one way or another. Eventually they got so fed up that they tried to restrain me, and when they did, it took 3 of them, but even those 3 couldn't hold me down in just pure rage. What I had ended up doing was they left the door open, and they weren't paying much attention. But after I had got them trying to help each other up, I took off running down the hall. I ran down, and you could hear them screaming and shouting, trying to get me to stop, because the windows weren't barred, and end of the hall was a window, so odds were I could have jumped right through the glass and killed myself that way. But as soon as I reached near the end of the hall, I ended up running into one of those trays that they used to push stuff around on, and a nurse. And this nurse had looked at me, but it was a different kind of look. It was something I'd never seen before in those eyes. They were a piercing blue, but her smile said, "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to do anything to you." And I just stood there, and I was just staring. And when the orderlies had caught up to me, she had told them to stop. And she looked at me, and she said, "Take my hand." And all I could do was just sit there and look down at her hand. And she said, "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to do anything to you. Just take my hand." And once again, I contemplated looking down at her hand, thinking, how can I trust someone if I couldn't put trust in others to begin with? And she said one more time, "Take my hand." And that time, I reached out and I took her hand. And she told the orderlies to go about their business, and she'd handle the situation. The orderlies went on their way. Next, she said, "You look hungry. When was the last time you had eaten?" And I stayed silent. She looked again, and she's like, "You probably haven't eaten for quite a while. Let's get you some food." And I went with her, and I followed her to the eating area. It was empty except for cooks preparing, and she had went, and she's like, "I'm going to get you a sandwich, and we'll get you some, at least some food into you until it's actually meal time. Just sit right there, I'll be back." A few minutes later, she comes back with a sandwich, and she hands it to me, and I look at it, and I look at her, and I look back at the sandwich, and I just stare, and she goes, "There's no medicine in it. There's something about you that can go on, but I'm not going to trick you. I'm not going to do any of this to you." So I ate. I ate the sandwich. After I had finished eating, she had asked my name. I told her my name. And she asked once again, "What's the name that I go by, not the name that I was given?" And immediately it made my eyes just light up. Someone wanted to know what I wanted to go by, not what I was given, not what I had to listen to for years. And I told her, "Spirit." And she goes, "Spirit? As in an angel, a ghost, or would you say life spirit, competitive spirit, the spirit of community, a spirit who brings together stuff?" And I nodded and said the latter. I wanted to be known as Spirit. Someone who has life. Someone who brings meaning. And all that. And she said that's a nice name. Eventually we got to talking, and I managed to actually talk and was willing to. She helped me a lot. And it made me feel better that there was someone out there who actually cared who I was and who I wanted to be. It made me feel like a person, not just an animal. And it changed my life quite a bit. When I was released at the start of the school year from Unit 9 so I could attend school, the school was notified to keep an eye on me for a little bit to make sure everything was going fine. I'd found some new TV shows, some new friends. I started listening to new music. I got back into gaming a lot more and trying to be a lot more social. I wanted to open up my arms to trust people, but I wasn't fully there yet. I'm still not fully there to trust people yet. There's too much in this world that makes me not want to trust people. But at the same time, if I'm to trust someone, I need them to be able to trust me. So, back when I got through all of this, and I started changing my life around, everything became better. I still suffer from spurts of depression here or there, and it does impact me, but I don't let it get to me. I don't let anything get to me. I don't take medication. I go and I talk with people. I talk with my managers. I talk with my friends. I talk with you guys in the comments. I talk. I can beat this, and I'm still going to beat it. I'm not going to let it beat me. It's something that can't go away fully, but it can be held off, and eventually I can find a way to finally get over this. So, it's a big deal to me, and it's a big deal to a lot of people that you don't follow through with your actions. It hurt my family to see me and what I had done to myself. It hurt other people, even ones that I didn't know, to see that I was willing to throw something away for just no reason. I didn't ask for help. I didn't try and get help. I had to be forced to have help. I want you guys to walk away knowing that no matter what you do or where you go, you can always ask for help. Someone will always be there for you. It may not be me. It may not be your parents. It may be your school counselor. It may be your best friend. Sit and talk and contemplate what you're throwing away, because it may be a lot more than you're willing to. Never give up and never lose hope. There is always something to come on the other side of it. So never, ever give up. And remember, if you, a loved one, a friend, or someone you know is contemplating and taking their life, get help. Talk to them. Try and get a psychiatrist, a school counselor, your best friend, something. Because your life is more valuable than you will ever realize. and there will always be hope. I'd like to thank you all for listening to this tale, and I hope you will consider what I have said and take it to heart. It is not a moment I am proud of, but it is something I have to live with. So please, have a nice day, and remember to enjoy every bit of it, because your life is worth it.